News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranahan.
Greetings and welcome on board the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. Hi, everybody. I am Mark Lawrence, host of the show. Don't you wave to the webcam?
No, not really.
Come on now. You're missing the show. See, I have to stand up.
I just smile at it.
So I can be seen. But, yes, it's the webcam is up and running. So, hi, everybody.
Yes, you are standing up. How about that?
Well, when I sit down, I'm such a shorty.
Why don't you raise the chair?
It's up all the way.
Oh, is it all the way? Okay.
Yesterday I sat on a suitcase, but Kevin says that won't be necessary, so I don't know what. He's probably got big changes.
Well, at least he isn't coming in and dragging you to the left as he does me every time I sit over there.
Your whole chair, you mean?
Yeah, he says I'm not in the frame, so he comes in and drags me over.
Okay.
You see his hand come in and pull my chair down.
He's got the hook. Yeah, form has far exceeded function around here.
On this side of the table I'm safe because the camera is kind of pointed at me, so.
Right.
I really don't care about the function of what you have over there. I'm only worried about how it looks.
Yeah, it isn't content that Kevin is
as
worried
long
about.
as it looks and sounds good. I'm
waiting,
care how
waiting
it feels.
for the memo to come down about how we dress and the makeup person coming in and applying makeup while we do this.
Well, you could use a little powder on the...
My grandson made that observation the other day. Papa's head is shiny. Maybe we could put some powder on it.
Papa's head is shiny. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. Okay, well, that's you certainly can add to that.
No, I can.
All right. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. As is painfully obvious to those already watching, the webcam is up and running, and that is an opportunity for you to watch the On the Mark program. Of course, just go to WKOK.com, click on our little Ustream symbol there, and you can watch the show live as we do it throughout the morning, and you can enjoy visually seeing what's happening during our conversations. And if you wish, you can use WKOK.com for a 24-hour archive, and that you just stay right on that particular page. And if you'd want a longer archive or to listen to some of the great shows last week when Joe was at the Catbird seat all week, just go to WKOK's YouTube channel, and you can connect to that at WKOK.com. So that is your opportunity to look at longer archives. And, of course, all of our videos are there. The video that Sarah Bartlett put up yesterday of the individual being arraigned on their rock-throwing charges out in Mifflinburg, that video is there. Soon there'll be a video of me at the new Lifelight helicopter, and there's some other great stories there for you to see at the YouTube channel, which you can connect to at WKOK.com. And the Lenape Solar email in basket open. Simply email on the mark at WKOK.com, and in many cases we do read your email on the radio. Lenape's the fastest growing solar company in the valley, and why not? They have everything that can change your use of energy. They can reduce your electricity use if you go solar voltaic. They can reduce your cost to make domestic hot water if you go solar thermal. If you're a business, they can reduce your lighting expenses, and no matter where you are, anywhere, even if you live in a tiny little shanty in the woods or a great big palatial mansion, and ductless HVAC systems are available at Lenape Solar, lenapesolar.com. On the Mark's brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 to 15, Hummels Wharf. Find out more about them at sunburymotors.com. They invite you to visit the Quick Lane on North 4th Street in Sunbury. That's where they specialize. They have a very important specialty. Everything. They do state inspections. They can check your filters and fluids and buff the top of your forehead if that's what's necessary, and they'll help you out. Nitrogen for the tires, that's what I use, and it definitely saves a buck. And they are open Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, and Saturday, 7 to 3, sunburymotors.com.
I don't care if they buff my forehead, but I'll check my own fluids, thank you.
Okay, well, great. And the Groninger Insurance toll-free line is open. You simply call 1-800-795-9565 throughout the next hour. We would love to chat with you live on the radio. Groninger Insurance Agency sponsors the toll-free line. They're located at Front and Duke Streets in Northumberland, and they're growing. It's true to say because they just purchased the Shamrock Insurance Agency from Front Street. That puts Progressive in their line of important insurance opportunities that you can take advantage of at Groninger's. The Groninger boys, there's more boys and girls now there as they continue to grow, and you can see them. And in case you haven't noticed, they're in that old bank building at Front and Duke Street. Some renovations, probably the only insurance office around here with a drive-through, and boy, would they just love to take good care of you. GroningerinsuranceAgency.com is their main website. I am Mark Lawrence, below-average host of the show, or as Dave, who hates everything, sent us a note yesterday saying Mark's S-U blank 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 K-S, yes. And so that we appreciate that note to start the Monday morning. Kevin Hur is the greatest engineer the world has ever known, has won so many awards that there's even a planetary constellation that's named after him. And on the other side of the table, both religiously and politically and family-wise, is Joe McGranahan, the mayor of Shamokin Dam, Republican, reasonably conservative, natural-born listener, and very much interested in being my co-host on Tuesday and Thursday. So welcome aboard.
I got to tell you, thank you. I got to tell you that, we did have the governor on last week. You set that up before you left. Mm-hmm. And I started the interview by mentioning that Representative Keller had referred to the fact that the governor should have signed the budget with a crayon, given that he was somewhat petulant about not getting all he wanted in terms of pension reform. And after we aired the interview, Fred did call in, and he said some very nice things about the governor, and I think they went a long way to patching it up. But at the state mayor's conference Friday night, I had a chance to talk to the governor for a few seconds, and I mentioned to him that after the interview we had done with him, which he remembered, that Fred Keller had called in and said very nice things about him, and his response was, "I'm glad to hear that."
Yeah. Yeah, he's not much of a people person, which is kind of strange.
He is a tremendous people person.
Come on.
He wowed the entire room. Republicans and Democrats gave the guy a standing ovation. I don't know, I'm sure our Mayor's Association is probably fairly evenly divided, but everybody was on their feet. He did an outstanding job.
And what was his appeal?
He talked about what they've tried to do, and he said, some people said we failed at certain things. He said, but let me tell you what I think we did that were successes. And he went over the list of things he had done. He talked about how the education funding has to be revamped, how pension costs are hurting, the state, and something has to be done about them. Not talking about taking anything away from people who are there today. He really did an incredible job. And we did, in our defense, we invited Mr. Wolf to attend, but he didn't come and he didn't send a surrogate. And we held the night open for him up until the very last minute when we finally had to, Thursday night he was invited, and he didn't come and he didn't send anybody. So I guess there was some kind of scheduling conflict in the campaign. But you would think that somebody running for governor having an opportunity to address a room full of mayors from all across the state would have taken it.
Well, yeah, honestly, can't you just send a supporter? I mean,
yeah,
I will probably vote for him, so phone me up on the important topics that relate and send me there as a supporter.
Well, we're all kind of disappointed because we wanted to hear what he had to say. Since we knew we were having the governor Friday night, we were looking forward to hearing Mr. Wolf or somebody from his campaign on Thursday night to tell us what he stood for and where he was different.
Wolf is running his own kind of campaign. He said at the beginning it would be very unconventional. Whatever previous politicians have done, he won't be doing. So showing up at those kinds of activities or just sending a surrogate isn't his line of thought.
I agree with you that Governor Corbett is not generally considered a warm and friendly person, but he is, very much so. I mean, he's just very outgoing, very friendly, very off the cuff. The one thing they did do, interestingly enough, the Wolf campaign sent a tracker to try and come in and record what the governor said at our meeting, but he was not permitted in. Well, out of fairness, we wouldn't have permitted, had Wolf showed and the governor sent somebody, we wouldn't have permitted them in either. But it was a very interesting night. I thought the governor did an outstanding job. He really hit a home run.
Trackers are what these people are called?
Yeah, they follow them around and record them, I guess, looking for ops, oppo stuff that they can use in the campaign.
Or oopses.
Oopses, yeah.
Oops, or oppositional
stuff, yeah.
Okay, so...
But he really did an outstanding job. I mean, I was impressed, and I've told you before, I'm not the biggest Governor Corbett fan in the world, but he certainly did a lot to convert me on Friday night.
I've never seen him in a social or casual setting as I had with Governor Rendell. And of course, this is part of Corbett's thing, is he's just in Harrisburg leading, and you never really... You don't make friends and influence people doing that, but of course, as you have said, he has a list of things that he felt he's helped to lead the state toward, and accomplishments, and some things that, whether you call them failures or just things he hasn't done yet, of course there's that list too. But yeah, I haven't seen him in any social situations. Governor Rendell used to make regular meetings to the Associated Press and PAB conventions and talk to the people like that, but that's not Corbett's thing.
Corbett's come to the PAB convention.
Has he?
Twice,
Good.
so...
Good.
That's the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters, for those who are listening and do not know. Let's talk about Ted Nugent for a minute. Do you mind?
Yes, please.
I'm interested in hearing your take on this. A Native American tribe has canceled an August 4th concert by Ted Nugent at its casino. The Coeur d'Alene tribe on Monday said that the cancellation of the concert at the casino in the northwest Idaho city of Worley was because of what it called the rocker's racist and hate-filled remarks. The tribe says it booked Nugent without realizing he espoused racist attitudes and views, and the tribe didn't detail which of its specific views that Nugent has that it opposes. Officials for Nugent's music management company were out of the office yesterday and were not available for comment. Nugent in the past has referred to President Obama as a subhuman mongrel. Nugent later apologized for using the street fight terminology of subhuman mongrel, but he maintained that Obama was a liar, violating the Constitution. So should he pay that price?
Have concerts canceled?
Yeah.
Well, I think there are repercussions to this, but at the same time, he's probably receiving invites to conservative groups. I'm sure he, because of his, very verbal opposition to the president, and as he aptly put it, I guess in your description, street-level opposition. I think he's made a lot of friends that he wouldn't otherwise have. A lot of conservatives that might not know anything about his music are now aware that, Ted Nugent is very strident and very, I'm going to use the word verbose, but I really don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean that, he's very
big on gun
vocal.
rights. Very big on gun rights.
Well, yeah, that's an aspect. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with the president.
Well, see, here's where I feel a little differently about this one than the others. I think the term subhuman mongrel is
that's bad.
So thoroughly offensive that I wouldn't ban him from appearing, but I would not attend his concert. And if someone asked me if I was going, I'd say no. I think the guy's reprehensible. There's no place for that in America's discourse, I don't believe. We can disagree, but I don't have to call you a subhuman mongrel.
Right.
Even though you may be one.
Well, as a matter of fact. No, anyway. Yeah, I guess is that the tipping point? But he apologized for that.
Well, and that's the past. That's not this issue. But, I mean, in the absence of this tribe describing what racist attitudes and views, how could they book Ted Nugent without realizing that? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. If you know anything about Ted Nugent, you know how far out he is. At least, and I don't mean far out in terms of the radicalism of his views, but in expressing them, being very vocal about expressing his opinions and beliefs.
But I don't think he's part of the household discussion of politics. I think you have to pay close attention to the negative political discourse and the hate speech that's out there. I think you have to really go out of your way to find out what Ted Nugent thinks. I don't think he's in plain sight. The way, he's not like a Rush Limbaugh, where everybody knows Rush feels the way he does about certain things, and he also is a racist, but that's another topic. But anyway.
I don't believe he's a racist.
Well, anyway, so the fact is that I don't think Ted Nugent is widely known for this. I think and among this group of concert bookers, he was primarily known as a great guitarist and singer and rock and roll artist, and maybe a little bit about the sort of the freedom/gun control things that he talks about. I find Ted sort of a reprehensible character all the way around, but if you're going to book him for a concert, I think that would be okay.
Well, if he comes on stage and espouses his political views during the concert, I could understand why they might have some trepidation about hiring him or keeping the contract in place. But if he just comes out and performs his music, then I don't think that that's relevant. His political views aren't relevant. If he drags them into the equation, then he has to suffer the consequences, I suspect. Because we're not very tolerant. I mean, when free speech generally, we don't like to let anybody whose thoughts we disagree with speak about them these days. But in this case, they are pretty bad. Or he has been pretty bad in the past. So I would be concerned about that. But I would ask him, before we cancel the concert, I would say to him, look, we have people here who are going to come and see you from all political stripes, and we don't want to offend any of our customers by having you espouse some of these more subhuman mongrel comments. Are you going to make them, or is your show going to be just the music? Mm-hmm. If they said just the music, I'd let him go on. But if he started with the comments, I'd have security pull him off the stage.
Well, okay, so you are one of the individuals that think that political correctness has gone too far.
In many cases, I do.
Are you not arguing both sides of that, then? I mean, here, in the case of political correctness...
You missed me, though. I said if he's not going to talk about politics, I don't think his concert should have been canceled if he was just going to do the music. Mm-hmm. But if part of his act is music and political commentary, and they don't want to offend their customers.
Right, I got that.
That's where I draw the line here. I mean, it's a matter of a contractual agreement. I've hired you to come entertain, not to come espouse your political philosophy.
Yeah, but he's the same person. Is where I was headed. Is that you may not like his words, but you love his music, which that could be true for me. But it's the same person. I mean, he profits from the concert. So would you like the what the group called the racist? Where's the specific? What the racist and hate-filled remarker? Would you like him to profit from him playing music at your event? And
well, he's entitled to his racist and hate-filled opinions. In this country, you're still entitled to that, and I suppose he's entitled to speak out about them. But I don't know that I've ever, other than this comment, I don't know that from personal hearing him, that he's made others that I find as offensive. But I do find the term subhuman mongrel very offensive, and really without cause or justification. I mean, I don't always agree with President Obama, but I would never call a man a name like that.
And all it really does is reveal how he really feels. And if finally he was honest, and then he had to apologize because mostly he tempers his remarks so they're not so offensive.
I do. I mean, I'll accept his apology. I don't know whether the president would or not. I mean, I'll accept him at face value.
Well, it wasn't a real apology, though. It was one of those ones. So I apologize if I offended you. I'm not sorry that I feel that way. I'm just sorry that you think it bothers you that I feel that way.
Well, why should he be sorry if he feels that way, if that's him, if that's his personality, that's his opinion?
An apology is when, a real apology is when you do something that is genuinely not your true character, and that maybe you exaggerate something in the heat of an argument or something, and then afterward you say, I do not feel that the president is a subhuman mongrel. He doesn't say that. What he says is, well, I do feel he was, but here's the context. It's a street fight reference that the lay person wouldn't be familiar with, and so I don't know most.
Well, what kind of street fights do you get into where they call somebody a subhuman mongrel?
I don't know. They're typically not that articulate, I think, in the heat of these things. Let's take a quick break and let's get our audience's view on this. Should Ted come back to play at this particular concert, or is this just are the Native Americans suffering from cat scratch fever and can't understand the difference between music and political commentary? 1-800-795. I knew we were going to hear it eventually. Might as well get it now. 1-800-795-9565 is our telephone number. That's the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. Lenape Solar email in basket is attracted to things that you've tapped out at On the Mark at WKOK.com. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Hi, everyone. Steve Jones from The Steve Jones Show. The future of intercollegiate athletics. It's not just a football, men's basketball issue. We'll talk about it today, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070, WKOK.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's what he's
his only claim to fame.
Oh, no, he's got a lot of good music. Boy, Motor City Madman.
You're
I'm not going to be able to think
hard
of
rock fan, are you?
Please, Kevin.
No, I was just going to say, but if I go to a concert, I don't care if it's Ted Nugent, Bruce Springsteen, looking at the other side of the political spectrum. I really don't care about your political views because that's not what I'm paying to hear. I'm paying to hear you play a song that I heard and liked. Play several of them, as a matter of fact, for what I'm spending to see you.
Ted Nugent with a nice little love ditty.
Don't
I love Barbara Streisand singing, but I hate her politics.
Right, exactly.
You know, I don't go to hear her sing, but I want to go hear her expound on her political views.
I have paid $75 to hear lots and lots of music, not just some music and what you think on politics.
Right.
Yeah, but don't you think in the case of Ted Nugent that really nowadays his primary venue is political speech, and his words are so divisive that it goes beyond, Barbara Streisand, I presume, is a Democrat and supported the Clintons. I remember that.
Well, she's pretty far to the left. Yes.
Okay, so she's pretty. I don't recall her words as related to President Obama, but perhaps she was.
Well, she had a few for President Bush.
No, but I don't recall if she supported President Clinton per se, or President Obama or not.
She did.
But that is really her stock and trade is music and singing and.
But she's become more of a political activist in recent years.
Well, and then I think you can weigh it, but that's Ted Nugent has gone the other way, where I think music is just a little asterisk of his life. It's really what gave him fame, but the fact is how do you want to say this? His stock and trade today is speech, is words, not songs.
He did have Kevin. Maybe you know about this. Didn't he have a hunting show on television on one of the cable channels?
Yeah.
He still does.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, if you're doing an interview and someone asks you about your political views, then fine. You can spout whatever you want because you're being asked about it. But if you're at a concert where you're expected to play music, or you're on a TV show where you're expected to play music, that's not the place to talk about politics. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, if you're in an interview, like if Mark Lawrence is interviewing Ted Nugent and Ted wants to talk about his politics, that's the opportunity to speak about it, not at a concert.
Right. If we had him on the Mark and he was a guest, and we called and we asked him about this concert being canceled because of his remarks, his alleged hate-filled, racist remarks, then I suspect he would be free to espouse them if we gave him that opportunity. But I think Kevin's right here, and I don't think they should have canceled the concert unless they had reason to believe that he wouldn't stick to the terms of it. And I would think if you were hiring Ted Nugent and you knew his political proclivities, you would write into the contract, that if you want to get paid, you keep your mouth shut, just sing.
I mean, many artists say they want red M&Ms in their as part of their contract in their rooms or in their dressing rooms. So if you're a promoter and you didn't put into the contract, by the way, you can't say anything political, then that's your fault.
Right.
All right. 1-800-795-9565. It is not too late for folks to join us as we approach the top of the hour. If you want to weigh in on this, should Ted Nugent be allowed to sing in front of this group, or was the particular group right? Now, particularly, I think it's noteworty that it's Native Americans, and these are individuals who should be well familiar with American superiority and dominance, as many Native Americans feel as though they were not treated fairly. So this is a minority group that is protesting his racist and hate-filled remarks and racist views by canceling
what it
a concert.
called his racist and hateful.
Well, clearly they are that way. I mean, there could be no other way to describe it.
Well, but we don't know what they didn't come out and say specifically that it was that one comment that led to it. They haven't said what it is that tipped the scale for them.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's the Associated Press.
It said, right, Associated Press is saying in the past he has referred to President Obama as a subhuman mongrel. Now, if that's the reason why, I mean, that received a fair amount of publicity, did it not?
Yep.
Now, you would think they would have known that before they hired him. I mean, I can't believe that it comes as a surprise to them, even out in Idaho. You've certainly heard of Ted Nugent and his racist,
like
racist,
I said, I really don't think Ted's part of the broad political discourse. I think people who watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, they would be familiar with his remarks. But if you didn't follow those three channels extensively, you probably haven't heard his remarks.
He hasn't made Al Jazeera, huh?
Well, I don't know. I will have to ask somebody who watches them. Let's see. Than sends us a note, says, unfortunately, paying Nugent to play a gig supports his racist rants, whether or not he rants at the venue. He has the freedom to say what he wants, but I will not supply the soapbox, says Than. Yeah, I agree with that.
So much for free speech.
Well, I think you should be able to say what you want. I think, and what has happened is that Ted has used his right to free speech to disclose how he really feels. And so now, when the performer is applying, or you have an opportunity to hire a performer, because of Ted's and Barbra Streisand's case also, now you know how they really feel about matters, not just how they sing songs. And then I think it's a perfectly valid decision to decide, do you want to give some of your hard-earned money to somebody who feels the way Barbra Streisand feels about the president, or the way she felt about George W. Bush?
You just don't go to the concert. In other words, they booked him, the Indian tribe booked him, and there may be people who like his music and really want to hear him perform. The fact that his political comments are part of the equation is where I draw the line.
But money changes hands.
But see, I love Bruce Springsteen. I don't like his political views, but that's not going to stop me from going to a concert and hearing
views? Left.
They're left.
Pretty far left.
They're pretty far left. But
are there any conservative singers out there?
Not many.
Yeah, Ted Nugent.
just Ted.
But my
the
point.
Only one.
My point is, I don't mind spending my hard-earned money to hear him sing the songs that I want him to hear. That's just not the venue. I mean, I'm not supporting his views by going to his concert, though. That's where I disagree with Than.
Supporting his music.
Right.
Yes, that's where I disagree with Than.
Fans didn't decide they weren't going. The group decided to cancel them, and here's why. The group is paying Ted. When you buy
they're not.
No, I agree with the people who buy the tickets. If nobody buys the tickets, then the group's paying
for it, right?
So you're saying this Native American group was not paying Ted to come there?
They were paying him to come there, but they weren't letting him entertain for free. They were charging admission and tickets, hoping to make a profit on his appearance.
Well, you're making my point where I was headed with this, and that is that it is the group of Native Americans who's spending their hard-earned money to give to Ted. Now, they certainly were hoping to get their money back through ticket sales, but they were paying him to come. So it was their money that was going to Ted. Yes, they wanted our money to fill the hall so they could get it back, but that's immaterial.
Why?
The fact of the matter is they don't want their money going to Ted.
But their money in the end wouldn't. If enough people bought tickets, it would be the other people's money.
Well, yeah, you get your money back. But I think, who you spend money with is a matter of principle for principled people. And so if you don't feel strongly in that way, then as this group
So in other
does,
words, there should be a severe penalty for your personal speech, even if it has nothing to do with the way you earn your living.
I think you should be responsible for the things that you say.
Well, I am responsible for the things I say, like this is WKOK Radio, Sunbury, Pennsylvania. We'll be back with more of On the Mark after the news. I'm responsible for that.
What's Groninger's big question?
Do you know if your insurance is at the right price?
And what's the radio station again?
WKOK, Sunbury.
You pass.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. A train with the bodies of most of the 298 victims from Flight 17 pulled into a station in Ukrainian government-held territory a few hours ago. From there, the remains will be taken to the Netherlands, where the Malaysian flight originated last week. Investigators say the plane's flight recorders, turned over by the Russian separatists suspected of shooting it down, are in good shape. Reporting from Kiev, CBS's Cami McCormick tells us that's not the case with the crash site.
The debris field has been compromised, according to international observers who have confirmed to CBS News that they witnessed people taking chainsaws to parts of the plane yesterday. Pieces are disappearing and being moved around the site. That will make it very difficult for Dutch investigators who will be taking over, but they haven't yet arrived at the site, saying it's too dangerous to begin their work.
The European Union is meeting in Brussels to consider new sanctions to punish Russia for supporting the rebels in Ukraine. CBS's Terry Schultz has that.
Some EU governments are now calling for an arms embargo on Moscow. The British government is leading the charge inside the EU, but France maintains it will go ahead with the delivery of a Mistral warship Russia's already purchased. So a full consensus on that is unlikely. Foreign ministers are expected to put a visa ban and asset freeze on more people, possibly Kremlin insiders.
Diplomats are at work in Cairo trying to have a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. In Gaza, it's been another day of fighting.
The Israeli military says it attacked more than 70 targets in Gaza today, striking with warplanes, tanks, and artillery. Palestinian officials say civilian sites were hit, including 5 mosques and a sports complex.
Almost 600 Palestinians and more than 24 Israelis have died since the fighting erupted 2 weeks ago. The increase in consumer prices slowed in June, despite the biggest jump in gasoline prices in a year. Economist Stuart Hoffman.
Got a break on food. Food prices barely budged in the month of June, and car prices, new and used car prices, actually fell last month.
A well-known nonprofit may be the latest victim of a data breach. Live to CBS News correspondent Heather Bosch.
If you shop at Goodwill thrift stores, check your bank statements. Goodwill Industries says federal agents are investigating a possible data breach that exposed customer credit cards to thieves. The nonprofit operates 2,900 stores in the U.S. The New York Times reports, if confirmed, it would be the 6th major retail chain, including Target, to admit its security system was hit. Crooks from Eastern Europe are suspected to be behind the attack.
The wind has died down. Temperatures have dropped, but the wildfire that's burned across north-central Washington's only 2% contained. Dennis Godfrey with the Bureau of Land Management says crews are struggling to get the upper hand.
The conditions are tough, difficult to fight, lots of canyons, lots of narrow inlets.
S&P futures are up 8.5 points. This is CBS News.
You've been thinking about moving over to solar power for your home. So are a lot of other people, which is why some power companies are pushing for extra fees to make up the difference. Is it finally happening? Is solar power actually becoming a threat to the old power conglomerates? Don't fund Big Power's losses while everybody else goes solar. Get caught in the middle, or go with a trusted local solar company and actually own it, and reduce your energy bill with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. Get tax breaks and big monthly energy savings. Avoid falling behind and paying extra. Don't be the last one in line. Our nation's power supplies are shifting. Wait too long and you may wind up paying for it. Want to completely eliminate your power bill? Get all the tax incentives you're entitled to while you still can. And do it locally, because local is accountable and we finance. Call 1-800-MY-SOLAR for a free in-home assessment. 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
My home, my savings. 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
The death of a former Russian spy will be the subject of a public inquiry in Great Britain. CBS's Larry Miller has the story.
8 years after the London murder of ex-KGB spy Alexander Litvinenko, Britain has ordered a public inquiry into the killing. Investigators will examine whether the death was a Russian state-ordered assassination. Litvinenko was a strong opponent of President Vladimir Putin. Since 2006, Russia's blocked Scotland Yard from arresting 2 key suspects who met with Litvinenko on the day he was poisoned with a radioactive element. One of those suspects is now a member of the Russian parliament. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
A British government investigation found that schools in some parts of Birmingham, England, were the targets of a sustained effort to impose an intolerant and aggressive hardline Muslim agenda on children. Investigators say the aim was to gain control over governing bodies and install teachers who would support Islamic ideology. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
If there were an 83% chance of rain, you'd probably grab an umbrella. If there were an 83% chance you could hit the lottery, you'd probably buy a ticket. So if there was an 83% chance that one of your vehicle's tires had a problem, what would you do? The experts at your Ford dealer know that whether it's not properly inflated, losing tread, or wearing unevenly, 83% of all vehicles have an issue with at least one tire. So have your tires checked by the factory-trained experts at your Ford dealer. They know your Ford and its tires better than anyone.
And now get up to $130 in mail-in rebates on select tires when you use the Ford Service Credit Card. And you'll always get the low-price tire guarantee on the 13 name brands we sell.
Ford, go further.
Subject to credit approval. Rebate by prepaid debit card. Competitive ad required for tire guarantee within 30 days. Other tire manufacturer rebate or offer cannot be combined with Ford Service Credit Card rebate or offer. Data from Rubber Manufacturers Association. See your participating Ford dealer for details through 8/31/14.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranahan.
Greetings and welcome back to the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. On the Mark, I'm Mark Lawrence. Joe McGranahan is here. Kevin Hur, the greatest engineer in several galaxies, and we're very glad that he's been visible from the International Space Station, and all of his awards are.
Isn't it galaxies? I don't think it's galaxy. Galaxy, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're probably.
Wasn't that a video game in the 80s?
Galaxy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Very good. Oral reading.
The webcam is up and running. We invite you to go to WKOK.com, click on there, or go to our YouTube channel, and you can watch the archives there. And it is wonderful. It is a great image. You can see the new headphones my lovely bride has given me that are...
very colorful.
They're not Dr. Dre. They're something else. They're like Beats or whatever.
They look a little hippie to me.
I thought they looked like Mickey Mouse ears.
Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse?
Yes, the DJ.
That's even better.
Mouse earphones.
That's better than Skull Candy.
Oh yeah, these are the real deal, baby, and they sound pretty good. I'm not sure that we
just
have
pretty good.
I'm not sure we have the right headphone jack in here for these. So, and they also have a volume control on it, so I can turn you off with the click of a button here. So that would be.
I'll bring my Sonys in tomorrow, and we'll have a battle.
Yeah, sound deadening headphones. This is so I can hear Than Mitchell. Alrighty. Groninger Insurance Agency sponsors the toll-free line, which is open, 1-800-795-9565, 1-800-795-9565. The agency is located at Front and Duke Streets, Northumberland, and they invite you to ask that question to yourself. You don't even have to have Joe say it out loud. Do you know if your insurance is at the right price? And then proceed to get a second opinion on all of your insurance, and I bet you'll end up at Groninger for something, GroningerInsurance.com. We're going to read the rest of our sponsors and some news headlines in a moment, but I'm glad to say one of our friends, Andrew, is on the line with some words. We were talking about Ted Nugent, and it kind of relates to political correctness and free speech a little bit. Would you cancel a concert where Ted was scheduled because of his sharp words about liberals? Andrew, what's your view on this?
Well, first of all, the video game was Galaxian.
Galaxian.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Galaxian, yep.
I should have just texted you and asked that question.
I was actually really good at it. I just couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, that and Galaga was the other one, very similar to it, Kevin.
That was the one I was thinking of, was Galaga. Yeah, I was really good at that one.
One of the first video game cheats. You could spend about 12 minutes making with a little pattern, and then they wouldn't fire at you, and you could spend 3 hours in the arcade for a quarter, which is a really great way I spent some of my young adolescence.
You and I might have fought over that machine at one point.
Probably. On Ted, look, I mean, I'm partly wondering, did they not know about Ted Nugent before he was booked? But I'm calling because I really like Joe, and I really respect Joe, and you're a bright guy. But, Joe, this is not the first time I've heard you on the show completely misunderstand the concept of free speech. Free speech has to do with the government. Free speech has to do with the government prosecuting you, persecuting you for what you say. That is all free speech is. I am always hearing conservatives talk about the marketplace of ideas. This is exactly that. That if people decide not to enter into private business contracts or private transactions with somebody because of their beliefs, that's how it's supposed to work. The idea that you say, well, should somebody be punished because of their beliefs? It's not punished and it's not the government punishing. They're not going to jail. They're not being taxed extra. But another private entity can decide, I don't want to put my money here. That's how it's. I thought that was how it's supposed to work. So I cringe every time I hear people say, oh, this is free speech, simply because other people disagree and that there's repercussions for that disagreement. Unless you get a governing body that has power to make laws, jail, or tax, it's not free speech issue.
Okay, Andrew, what you've just said. Suppose I'm your boss, I don't like it. I call you and say, Andrew, I heard you on the radio this morning, you're fired. Don't like what you said. Your free speech has just been violated, in my opinion.
Right, that's a good question. I think it depends on your job. I mean, there are certain jobs that have an expectation of public, public presence. I probably have one of those. But if you have a contract that says, you won't bring controversy or something, then an employer might have a case. But in general, you know, if you're talking about somebody hiring someone for a concert, like I said, yeah, I think they probably their mistake was not doing due diligence ahead of time. Like now it's an issue after the fact. And if somebody had said in a private conversation, hey, let's not book the Nuge, he's too much of a lightning rod, nobody would ever heard the story. It's because it came after the fact.
And that would be their right. But now the way they've done it in a very public way, they've made the issue, to me, they made it one of free speech. I don't like what this guy says, but isn't the speech we don't want to hear the speech most in need of protection?
Yes, and again, the protection is not from a contract for a concert. The protection is from the government.
But if
That's
you
what
have,
I keep coming back to.
Okay, I understand that point. But I'm saying to you that free speech to me, I mean, granted there are limits. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. I think we all agree with that kind of limitation. But in this case, my whole argument is I don't think people's livelihood should be endangered by their opinions in this country. You make a decision for yourself whether or not you want to support them. But for an institution to make the decision that they should be punished is where I have the problem.
And I'm not entirely disagreeing with that. It just seems to me that the difference between an employee who doesn't have much power with an employer is not the same thing as a well-established, millionaire entertainer who makes private contracts for performances that are now in question. I don't see that as the same thing as somebody calling on the mark and then their boss saying, hey, I don't like your attitude, you're out of a job. I mean, and maybe I'll think on that. Maybe that is the same. But every time I hear free speech, is this a case of somebody being persecuted by the government? If not, it's probably not free speech issue. Almost never.
If you have a political view,
thank you, Andrew.
Okay, if you have a political view you express, and you say, I'm in favor of President Obama being reelected, and your boss calls you in and says, hey, I heard you say you were supporting that Democrat, you're fired. There your free speech is being violated. And I think where I disagree with Andrew is you have to be very careful where you start saying you'll let it slide. Free speech I don't want to hear. Yes, I agree with you. I wouldn't want to hear Ted Nugent give a rant like this. But on the other hand, it is his right to do so. I don't have to support him personally, and I won't. But that doesn't mean I condone people who hire the guy trying to stop him from making a living in what he does, which has nothing to do with his political views.
1-800-795-9565, coincidentally, is the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. We invite you to call in. We're talking about, is it a violation of American trust to cancel a Ted Nugent concert because of his racist views? On the Mark is brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf. Find out tons more about them at sunburymotors.com. You'll know that they sell Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln cars. They're a premier service provider for all makes of cars and trucks, and their master towing service too, sunburymotors.com. Lenape Solar email in basket is open. You simply email on the mark at WKOK.com. We'll do the rest. We'll either ignore your email or read it on the radio. And Lenape Solar is located at 140 South 2nd Street in Sunbury. And they got Fujitsu HVAC, small heat pump systems that can provide ductless systems for your home. If you need cooling in a particular room, and maybe it's too far from the rest of the apparatus or heating in that particular room, I know a lot of people in this building would love to have their own little HVAC system in their office. You can do so inexpensively with ductless systems from Lenape Solar. LenapeSolar.com is their main website. Some news headlines briefly. There's a slowdown at the intersection of Route 180 and I-80, and that is in the Northumberland County area where the old Route 147 meets I-80. One of the on-ramps is slow because of an overturned truck there, so we'll keep you posted about there. But there's a slowdown at the intersection of 80 and 180 after an hour of closed-door meeting. An executive session, Midwest School Board last night voted unanimously to hire Joseph Stroop as Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Midwest. Salary $94,000. Strangely enough, that's one of the jobs once held by the former acting superintendent Daphne Snooks. She is now suspended at that district without pay and suing the district. He'll join Musselman, the man who is the new superintendent, Rich Musselman, at Midwest. The New York-based credit rating agency Moody's Investors Service is slapping a lower rating on Pennsylvania's debt for the second time in 2 years as the state government gridlock continues to grapple with built-in budget deficits. Monday's downgrade of $11 billion in general obligation bonds from AA2 to AA3 means Pennsylvania is now ranked among the 6th worst states in the U.S. for states that have obligation debt, which is most states. Moody's cited Pennsylvania's growing structural deficit, meaning the budget is not balanced, and weak reserves in their changing of that rating. And finally, a Michigan sheriff says he's trading his inmates' orange jumpsuits for the black and white stripes of decades ago, as in part due to pop culture. The Saginaw County Sheriff William Federspiel says that the all-orange jumpsuits are increasingly viewed as fashionable, especially because they're seen on the popular TV shows such as the Netflix smash Orange is the New Black, which incidentally was not renewed recently, so it must not be that much of a smash. Federspiel says some people think it's cool to look like an inmate at the Saginaw County Jail, so they wear all orange voluntarily. Or they wear it outside of prison, at the mall, or in public. He says inmates sometimes work in public, and he doesn't want there to be any confusion. The jailhouse fashions come relatively cheap. The sheriff says the jumpsuits, which last for 2 to 3 years, cost about $11 a piece.
Wait, you said Orange is the New Black is not renewed?
I believe that's.
I thought back in May they were going to do a third season.
Yeah,
okay, I could be mistaken there.
But I think it ought to do what Sheriff Joe Arpaio does: give them pink underwear, pink clothing.
Pink underwear?
Yeah, he makes everybody wear pink in his prison.
Through and through.
Yes,
pink underwear,
all the way through.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would work too. But the stripes. But I guess yeah. So, and I know you think that's politically sort of a free speech issue. You should be able to wear orange jumpsuits in public if you're not hunting.
I don't care what you wear in public, Mark. If you want to wear an orange jumpsuit and pink underwear, that's up to you, buddy.
If I wear an orange jumpsuit and pick up litter on the front of my house and then start running, to think anybody will call it up?
I would.
Yeah, you would.
By the way, it has been renewed for a third season, according to the Hollywood.
That's what I thought. I thought it was It's gotten wonderful reviews.
I was getting concerned myself for a minute there. I'm like, wait a minute.
Something has been canceled, but not that. All right, sorry.
Well, I hope it wasn't House of Cards. That's a great
no,
series.
it's not that. All right, let's see. We'll read the emails in the order in which they arose. Which is worse, using civilians as shields or killing those civilians? What are the ethics, Stan?
What's the topic?
Israel is the topic,
Okay.
all right? Back to free speech. Freedom of speech to say what he wants, and mine is to walk away with my money. And on the subject of Ted Nugent, another listener, not signed, says, what do we have to do with a community group canceling a concert? Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. It's their choice and their money. Talk about what's happening here in Northumberland County. Free speech is not free. Many people paid for it.
Well, no argument there.
Right. Thank you for that. And Lance, weigh in on this topic. You're on the mark.
Hi there. How's everybody's favorite self-righteous know-it-all this morning?
Which one?
You mean me or Than or Joe?
No, I say the iconic one there, old Mark.
Oh, my God.
Mark,
self-righteous know-it-all.
Why? Anyway,
Really?
First off, I got another thing I want to talk about. But,
What does that even mean?
Oh, no. Hey, this is all in the spirit of,
Good fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, have you signed up for green energy on your electric yet?
Yeah, why?
Oh, you have? Good, great.
Okay, well, that killed that in a big fat hurry.
No,
Next
what
topic.
I'm saying is maybe you get it from solar and wind and everything?
100% green. Actually, I'm sorry to say this. I didn't actually read the whole prospectus, so I don't know where it comes from. They say they're 100% green. Their rate is just as competitive as
that's
everyone.
good enough for you, right?
Right, and so...
Okay, good. You know, just get it all from wind and solar. I was really disappointed because before you had a mix of, dirty stuff and everything. And then you
coal. Well, yeah, that's...
So you had a mix of dirty stuff. You want to explain that?
I used to have dirty stuff, yes.
you have
Up
dirty
until
All right,
this
good,
month,
good,
we were
good.
dirty.
No, I'm very glad you did this. But anyway, if...
Did you think you were going to catch me not being green?
Oh, no.
I think you did, Lance. I think you wanted to gotcha.
I did before because, see, I thought you still had the mix of other energies.
Oh, okay. No, not anymore. This month it changed. And we paid a $30 penalty because I didn't switch in time. Kevin is supposed to remind me when it's time to change energy company.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting paid for that.
He did not.
We're smoking at my house.
$30 loss.
Yeah, wow. Well, anyway, if an individual who had written a book and it was dedicated to Sirhan Sirhan, would you allow him on the radio?
You mean the author of a book about Sirhan Sirhan?
No, he said dedicated his book to him.
Dedicated his book to him. I guess it would be worthy of having the discussion.
Depend on the topic of the book, I would think.
I don't know how I'd go on that. I'm not ultra familiar with...
Well, the guy that did that was Bill Ayers.
Okay.
And he's sort of, at least, my day, was a iconic, figure of the left.
Mm-hmm.
And he got away with that just fine. Matter of fact, when he retired from the University of Chicago, his Bobby Kennedy's boy was on the board of the university, and he was, of course, they give out Professor Emeritus, right? And he wanted to stop them from giving him that honor, and he was overridden, So I think what happens here is, if you are, at least now it appears that anything goes on the left. You can insult whoever you want to, and no problems. But if you happen to be a right-leaning person, you're figuratively up the creek.
So you think it's a sort of a double standard? If you're a liberal, free-thinking Democrat or independent, you get free reign, but conservatives are always called to task for their viewpoints.
Yeah, it seems that way. I have prided myself in my later years here as being a pragmatist. I went from a liberal, jaded ideologue, to being a pragmatic seeker of wisdom and truth, if you want to say that.
Okay.
How's that going for you?
Not a self-righteous ideologue.
It's really tough because you never wind up with any answers. All you wind up with is questions.
But I don't think you're saying that if political speech has a price for conservatives but not for liberals, but I don't really think that's true.
Well, I'll tell you what. Have you? The lady, she's a senator from up there in New England, who might be a Democratic contender for president.
Senator Snow, or
the lady that said she was an Indian and wasn't.
Oh, okay. Who was that?
I forget.
Yeah.
Kevin's clacking. We'll know soon. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, boy, I heard her speech the other day. Oh man! Wow.
You didn't memorize her name. Okay.
Yeah, it was just incredible, and she's so far gone to the left that it's incredible. And there's all kinds of people up and cheering it. Well, there's a convention of left folks here that's going on, or was going on. And man, I read that and I thought, oh my word, boy, this lady's really out there. This sounded like back in the 60s when you would get a communist professor who was blasting everything that the USA ever stood for. This lady is right there. She really is.
All right, we got you, Lance. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling, Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. We are talking about, in a manner of speaking, free speech, not that which relates to whether the government allows us to speak freely or not, but at what point should our speech have consequence or not? We invite your viewpoint on this. The conversation started, and we'll continue this conversation for another 10 minutes or so, and we would just love to hear from you. 1-800-795-9565 is the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll love to have you on the radio answering the question, if you disagree with an artist's political viewpoints, should you support their art, whether it's literature, as Lance was pointing out, or if it is the visual arts, or, in the case of Ted Nugent, the musical arts. Should you support them, or would you give them one of your hard-earned dollars to hear them sing if you know that their political speech is something that you agree or disagree with? 1-800 1-800-795-9565. Lenape Solar email in basket momentarily empty, but we'd love you to populate it with a note sent to onthemarket.kok.com. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
This is Justin Charles from Lenape Solar. Did you know we use exclusive manufacturing partners? Our solar modules are made with American components in an American factory by an American company in Milwaukee. Our lighting fixtures are made less than 3 hours away in Philadelphia. Even our fluorescent lamps are made here in the U.S., as are our solar racking systems. We're dedicated not just to quality, but our local economy. Find out more by calling 286-1496, online at lenapesolar.com, or drop by our showroom at 140 South 2nd Street, Sunbury, and see these products in person.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
On March 3rd last year, Henry W. faced his own death with incredible courage. He wasn't in an accident. He wasn't ill. He wasn't in any danger. But he faced this reality head on. If he died, his wife and children wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage, make the car payments, or keep up the life they'd had. His family would lose everything. So he picked up the phone and called AIG Direct. He found out that through AIG Direct, he could get a $250,000 life insurance policy for less than $14 a month. Now, he knows that he's helped make his family's future secure, no matter what happens to him.
Protecting your family with coverage through AIG Direct is fast, easy, and incredibly affordable. Call AIG Direct right now for a free no-obligation quote. The call takes less than 5 minutes, and you can save up to 70%. Call now. 1-800-463-7058. That's 1-800-463-7058. 1-800-463-7058.
Here are some sobering statistics from a national insurance company. 82% of teens use cell phones while driving. 48% of girls are likely to speed 10 miles per hour over the limit versus boys 36%. And 76% of teens say they feel unsafe while another teen drives. Let's empower teens to promote smart driving. Tell them to take action if someone's been drinking, is speeding, or using their phone.
This message brought to you by the stations of Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation, including News Radio 1070 WKOK and Sealands Grove Ford, proud supporters of Susquehanna Smart Drive.
And we're back on the Mark. I'm Joe McGranahan, along with me, Mark Lawrence, wearing his bright yellow earphones.
Dead
which,
mouse.
If you haven't tuned into the webcam to see, you're in for a treat.
Dead mouse.
Dead mouse, okay.
Right, the DJ. 1-800-795-9565 is the open line. I am Mark Lawrence, very subhuman host of the show. Across from me is a man who's not...
Ideologue.
Self-righteous ideologue. And the man who is the ultra conservative when it comes to Republican politics, but a natural-born free thinker and natural-born listener.
I'm not ultra anything.
Okay.
If you don't
in the
mind.
middle of the road. He's mushy at everything.
Not mushy. I just have conservative principles, but I'm willing to hear the other side of the issue.
One of our listeners says there was one incident where liberals criticized a conservative and there was a price to pay. A caller wanted to remind you about the Dixie Chicks comments about President George W. Bush.
Right, and again, if they did make them at a concert, I'd have a problem with it. If they made them speaking publicly...
I believe they did make them at a concert.
Then I got a problem with it.
Okay, do you now?
I do.
Okay, and only half a decade too late.
I paid for the ticket to hear the Dixie Chicks sing. Are they still around, by the way?
Yes.
Are they? Okay, I haven't heard much about them lately.
Well, since the comment, they've been...
Yeah, define around. They're not broken up.
Yeah, they've really been, I don't want to say shunned, but there's been issues.
They've been blackballed.
Yeah.
See, well, that's wrong too. I don't, they're entitled to their opinion about President Bush.
Well, they're
Again,
great singers.
My argument here seems to be getting lost in the shuffle, and that is that you should separate what they do for a living from what they believe. I mean, I wouldn't want. Would you want everything you believe personally to reflect on your employment?
Absolutely not.
No,
if things didn't stay in this room, I'd be in trouble.
That's right. You would.
I don't know the owner's political viewpoints around here, but I'm sure we're not in lockstep. So, all right, I am Mark Lawrence. I was totally right about that. That might be the only thing I can say that you all will agree with, and some folks would say that's not even true. Joe McGranahan is across from me. We know that he lives in Shamokin Dam, where he is the elected mayor. He was appointed mayor, now the elected mayor, and has been in municipal leadership for the better part of a half a century. And on the other side of the glass is Kevin Herr. He has street-level Republican viewpoints and is very much interested in hearing all sides of stories before he dismisses your viewpoints outright. Paul, that gives you a chance to speak freely, and then we will just say, well, it's just Paul, and dismiss your remarks. You're on the mark.
Well, gentlemen, one thing that most people don't take in consideration when they are talking about free speech is that if you can control, whether it be by an organization, by a government, or even a religion, if you can control the people's way of thinking, you actually control their free speech, because man usually speaks the way he thinks.
Okay.
All right, now...
Where are we headed here?
All right. Well, you're talking about free speech and whether or not that people have the right to do this. But if you're talking about free speech, you let a man speak his thoughts, but then you as an individual make the decision as to whether or not you agree or disagree. But you don't emphasize to him that he is wrong. And the other point that I wanted to make, and if you ever get into a discussion as to the creation, and that is whether man was created or whether man evolved through evolution. My question is, if God created man, what color did he make the first man?
I don't know, probably kind of Mediterranean. That's sort of what all the rest of the biblical settings are.
Well, then how do we
He was a short guy with dark
colors?
hair. How about that? Short guy, dark hair. What do they say, olive?
Maybe it was 6'5" and blonde.
Do they say olive skin? Is that real?
I don't. Well, they use that term.
Okay.
Yes, it implies a Mediterranean sort of appearance.
Okay, I'm sure he had sort of a Mediterranean hue, and he was well tanned. I mean, after a while.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then how do we account for all the different colors?
Genetic diversity developed over the millennia.
Well, then,
I'm waiting to hear your answer on this one, Mark.
Well, genetic diversity.
Where did it come from if there were only two people?
Well,
right.
It developed. I don't know. I don't think the story of Adam and Eve is specifically...
You believe it's apocryphal?
Well, Adam is a word that means
possibly.
man. It is not the name of the first individual that was created.
Okay. So, I think...
Who was the first individual created? Zizwap.
And what color was he?
The first person created was Dave, who hates everything. He doesn't like where this is headed, so we have to stop. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the call. I appreciate that.
He makes an interesting point today.
Does he? In what way?
Well, how would you know what the first person was like?
Well, check the history books. All right, let's take another quick break. And this, when we come back, what are we going to talk about? U.S.-Mexico border?
Yeah, Governor Perry sending the National Guard. Finally, somebody has some leadership down there and is willing to do what has to be done to stop the flow.
1-800-795-9565 is our telephone number. Another quick break. Kevin, are you ready here? I know you got your TV switcher all hooked up. Thumbs up. We're ready to go. 1-800-795-9565 on the mark at WKOK.com.
Make this summer's family vacation one they'll remember for years when you discover all the great things to do in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Like biking country roads or horseback rides. Ice cream cones are the perfect way to cool down before the lights go out and a ghost tour begins. Even history is fun when you grab a selfie with President Lincoln on the iPad tour. Choose a comfortable hotel or cozy bed and breakfast because they'll want to stay, and so will you. Plan today at DestinationGettysburg.com. And you thought we were just history.
No more hurt.
No more fear.
No more silence and shame.
13 million people are physically abused, raped, or stalked by their partners each year.
No more jokes.
No more laughing.
No more disrespect.
There's nothing funny about domestic violence and sexual assault.
No more feeling powerless to stop it.
No more being uncomfortable and afraid to speak up.
No more waiting for someone else to do it first.
It's time to say no more. Tell everyone you know. Together, we can end domestic violence and sexual assault. A message from the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. Learn more at pcard.org.
Why should you buy an RV from Susquehanna Valley RV?
Yeah, why?
Let's start with the biggest inventory of new and pre-owned RVs in the Susquehanna Valley, with 2 locations, Route 522 Selinsgrove and Route 11 in Bloomsburg.
I like the way they treat customers at Susquehanna Valley RV, and 31 years in the business, they know RVs inside and out because they're campers themselves.
Then something some people miss, service. To enjoy the RV for many years, let the experienced and certified technicians at Susquehanna Valley RV take care of your investment.
What is going on at the Selinsgrove location? Looks like a lot of construction.
To serve their customers better, Susquehanna Valley RV is adding 2 more bays to the service department, and that's taking care of the customer.
I sure do see a lot of nice pre-owned RVs.
Susquehanna Valley RV right now has over 200 quality safety check pre-enjoyed RVs at must-go prices. They really do mean go. They sold so many new RVs, they have an abundance of quality pre-enjoyed RVs.
Susquehanna Valley RV, Route 522 Selinsgrove and Route 11 Bloomsburg, a camper's best friend.
Hi, this is real estate agent Dale Tittle from Bowen Agency Realtors. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, I can help. Whether it's downtown or the rural Susquehanna Valley, buyer and seller opportunities are better than ever. Call me at Bowen Agency Realtors to find out more. Many experts say real estate is the key to long-term wealth. So start building your future with me, Dale Tittle, the house sold name in real estate, when you call Bowen Agency Realtors at 570-743-2165 for all your real estate needs.
Hi everyone, Steve Jones from The Steve Jones Show. The future of intercollegiate athletics. It's not just a football men's basketball issue. We'll talk about it today, 3 to 5 News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Must be the Dixie Chicks, right?
Yeah, baby, and that's one of their greatest songs. And it's a cover song. Their originals are good too. Yeah, they are fantastic artists. I really like them.
They're a bunch of chicks from Dixie.
Right, and they are, and they have liberal viewpoints, and they verbally excoriated President George W. Bush, and they paid a very heavy price for it.
How do you know that?
Well, they said that media reported at the time concerts were canceled, and the fact that record sales plummeted.
I disagree with that too. I mean, if you like their music, why do their political views have to enter into it?
Well,
I don't like I said before, I like Barbra Streisand singing, love her singing. I don't like her political views, but I own a lot of her records.
Well, at the time, they didn't just say, I'm going to have to think back, they didn't just say that George W. Bush isn't a good president, they wish someone else was there. They said not personal things, but really very pointed remarks about him. Maybe, Kevin, if you have a free second.
Well, the classic is Jane Fonda, who still today, by conservative groups and by veterans, is just, nothing she does could be right.
You go to One American Legion around here, they still have the Jane Fonda sticker in the urinal, so you have a chance to express your views in that way.
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, yeah. This is true.
But, I mean, that has nothing to do with whether she's a good actress or not. And it's hard, I know, for people who feel as strongly as about what she did. I mean, basically what she did is far worse than Ted Nugent's comments. I mean, she actually was, in my opinion, a traitor during the Vietnam War. But still, I can separate her acting from her political views.
When you saw her on Golden Pond, you didn't think about that.
No, and when I watch her on, it's a left-wing show. I happen to like it, The Newsroom. It's about as far left as you can get. But I like Alan Sorkin's writing.
Great show.
Yeah, I liked it when he was doing The West Wing.
When's that coming back?
It's coming back this fall.
I was going to say, HBO has that in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great show, but the political views are not mine. But the acting is good and the writing is good, and Jane Fonda plays the owner of this television network, and she does a very good job at it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, you don't really think about her political views when you see her acting.
No, and that's as it should be. I mean, can't we separate what we feel from what we say?
Isn't that funny that she's portraying the owner of a television network?
Yes, it is.
When, in
a
fact,
cable network, actually.
When she was sort of maybe involved in the co-ownership of a network for a time.
To me, that's how you find out other people's ideas. I mean, like I said, Alan Sorkin is about as far left a writer as you can get, but he's an excellent writer, and his stories are always interesting. The characters are well-defined and well-drawn. And so even though I don't like the political views I hear in that, and I suspect Kevin doesn't either, I like the show.
What political views are expressed there? Are they
Left
liberal
wing.
network?
Well, the anchor is played brilliantly by, is it not Jeff Hunt? Is it
Jeff Daniels?
Jeff Daniels, all right. I loved him in Gettysburg.
Jeff Hunt's the CEO of Sunbury Hospital.
Yeah, I'm sure Jeff's not doing acting. But Jeff Daniels, and he's supposedly a Republican, but like you, he's a rhino.
Well, I see him as he's
a
Republican that is against the Tea Party portrayed in the show.
Right.
You know, so he's trying to separate himself from the Tea Party.
I think he's just trying to accurately portray the Tea Party, and of course, conservatives
well, that's what
would
he
call
thinks.
That
yes, that's what he thinks. Yes.
But again, it's characterizing people for their opinions and their views and their speech.
But look at Joe. You mentioned the West Wing. Look at the West Wing. That's a perfect example of an 8-year liberal Democratic White House.
Yeah, I said they should have called it the left wing.
Right. Well, there was jokes about that. I mean, it was often joked about as the left
presidency
wing.
Were they portraying?
President
Bartlett.
No, but I mean, was he?
And not Sarah either.
Was he sort of a Kennedy character?
Maybe.
Well, I think maybe. No, not.
He was Kennedy-esque.
Yeah, I think in politics. I think I think
he
would
like
say
Kennedy?
that.
No, it was played by
it was Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
But here's the problem. Yes, he did look like Kennedy because if you remember back in the 80s, he did a miniseries called Kennedy, and Martin Sheen played President Kennedy.
So
yeah,
looked the same. Right.
That was another thing they often joked about. But that's a great example of a show that had obvious left leanings, but still was able to be successful, even though it was voicing political views a lot of times.
Right.
One of our listeners, Stan, sends us a note on the topic of political speech saying Lance, who was a caller about 20 minutes ago, and Ben spit out the word liberal like it was a bad taste. Many of us consider ourselves progressives or critical thinkers. Most thinking people are a mix of conservative and liberal, all heading for the same goal of making our country a better place to live, work, and raise a family.
Well, I feel like I should stand up and salute the flag.
You should, because he's so right. He's so right. People are so dismissive. You know, I called Ben on this one time, the fact that when people express viewpoints that he doesn't agree with, he says, oh, well, consider the source, or, well, look who it is, or it's supposedly the third smartest woman. They dismiss the whole person because they don't agree with their politics, even though they may have raised a very valid point about whatever we happen to be discussing.
Well, Than and Ben both have one trait in common. If someone calls in and starts saying something they disagree with, they don't let them finish. They want to tell them why they're wrong. I at least like to let them finish before I tell them
I
they're
think
wrong.
You're completely wrong, Joe. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes. And you are a self-righteous...
I'm a self-righteous ideologue.
Self-righteous pip.
Pip?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, but I used to be called that by a grandparent. Let's see. 11 years ago, in March at a concert in London, the Dixie Chicks, or one of the chicks, said this, and I'm sorry I don't know their actual names, said, "Just so you know, we're on the good side with y'all. We do not want this war, this violence, and we're ashamed that the President of the United States is from Texas," just like the Dixie Chicks are.
See, they shouldn't have paid a price for that, except that they did it in a public venue. I mean, if they had said that off the record or to a news person in a story that had nothing to do with their entertainment, then I don't think there should have been any repercussions.
Well, the biggest repercussion was they had a lot of their music pulled from country radio stations across the country. That was the biggest
to say that
issue.
You're ashamed of somebody.
What's worse, saying you're ashamed of the president being from Texas or calling the president of the United States a mongrel?
Well, the mongrel, I think, is worse. But to say you're ashamed, I don't know. I mean, that's sort of... Yeah, I guess it's... But see, that's hyper-dismissive. You know, I just flagged folks who say I dismiss what they say because of who they are, because of their political viewpoints, so therefore I won't give it full thought. But to say you're ashamed of somebody, I think that's dismissive. And I think that's probably what's... the worst part about that.
Well, I mean, my problem with them here is they did it in a venue where they were there to entertain, not to give a political speech. That's my problem with it. So, I can see why some people would say, all right, I don't want to hire them because I don't think they're going to cross the line. They're going to make a political comment that I don't want made here. I'm hired you to entertain people. Nugent, like I said, if they canceled his concert because they were afraid he was going to do that or they had reason to believe he was going to do that, then I can't argue with them too much. But, again, you have to be able to separate what someone does for a living from what they believe, as long as they keep the two separate. When they intermix them, then I think you're putting yourself on fair ground if you do sanction them in some way economically.
Just one note pops up, says, but you have to think about the country music demo that the Dixie Chicks were enjoying. That would have been the issue, the fact that most of their audience is conservative.
Yeah.
And they love George W. Bush.
Right. Well, I like George W. Bush, too, but he
wears a cowboy hat sometimes.
I can hear people... people have the right to criticize the President of the United States. If you read some of the criticisms of Abraham Lincoln, you wouldn't believe he's as glorified as he is today. He was not well loved in this country when he was president until he was assassinated. Then all of a sudden he became a martyr.
He was able to put that behind him and become a great president in history. Well, history's kinder to people. History will be kinder to George W. Bush than the present day was.
I think it'll be kinder to Richard Nixon, too.
Oh, already is.
Yeah, in many respects, yeah.
I think so, really, in a lot of ways. 1-800-795-9565. Call us now. 15 minutes of open phones remain. We would love to hear from you. We're talking about free speech. We're going to change the topic in a moment, so we'd love you to enjoy a conversation about the U.S.-Mexico border. Joe has this perfect solution to solve the problem once and for all.
I do.
Yes, and we're going to hear about that.
If they just asked me for it, I'd give it to them.
Well, we're going to ask for it in a minute, so hopefully we'll hear it. 1-800-795-9565 is a specific number around here. We call it the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. You're welcome to call it. And the Lenape Solar email in basket is populated by messages sent to OnTheMark at WKOK.com. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Here's something to think about. How do you know if your insurance is the right price? Have you ever had your insurance reviewed? Do you remember when it was reviewed? And are you getting all the discounts you deserve? Let Groninger Insurance Agency give you a free, no-obligation second opinion on your auto, home, or business insurance. Give the Groninger Insurance Agency a call today at 570-473-8107. They're proud to represent the Erie Insurance Group. It's true, if you're not insured by Groninger Insurance, you're probably paying too much.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
On March 3rd last year, Henry W. faced his own death with incredible courage. He wasn't in an accident. He wasn't ill. He wasn't in any danger. But he faced this reality head on. If he died, his wife and children wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage, make the car payments, or keep up the life they'd had. His family would lose everything. So he picked up the phone and called AIG Direct. He found out that through AIG Direct, he could get a $250,000 life insurance policy for less than $14 a month. Now, he knows that he's helped make his family's future secure, no matter what happens to him.
Protecting your family with coverage through AIG Direct is fast, easy, and incredibly affordable. Call AIG Direct right now for a free no-obligation quote. The call takes less than 5 minutes, and you can save up to 70%. Call now. 1-800-463-7058. That's 1-800-463-7058. 1-800-463-7058.
On the border.
Right, we're on the border, U.S.-Mexico border. One other note about our previous discussion. One of our listeners sends us a note that says, Orange is the New Black is renewed. There was a hoax article out there, and Lawrence got caught in the vicious trap of internet falsehood.
Well, as long as you don't spread the rumor that House of Cards is being canceled.
Oh, that would be tragic.
That would be
Kevin
awful.
Spacey is amazing in
Absolutely
that series.
incredible.
Absolutely
incredible.
My lovely bride and I, Serial, watched that in the
So
past
did I.
couple months.
I love the way he turns to the camera and just starts talking to the camera. And it's so smooth transition.
I knew
love
the
it.
opening scene, the very first opening scene of the first season. You remember it?
Mm-hmm.
The dog.
Mm-hmm.
That set the whole tone right there.
Did.
His little speech about there's all kinds of pain, some that's useless, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, I like it when I've never been able to sit in a meeting again and think that I'm actually coming up with an idea or doing the right thing, because of the one time he looked at the camera and says, and he thinks it's his idea. And I thought, oh my gosh, this happens to us all the time at the staff meetings here. I think of something and then I realize I'm being directed into that, and I think it's his idea.
Yeah,
all right.
That's a wonderful show. If you haven't seen
U.S.-Mexico
it.
border. We got kids coming in from Guatemala, and
Well, we got Governor Perry sending 1,000 National Guard troops down there to try and stem the tide a little bit.
Okay.
Something the president should have done. I mean, the state of Texas is going to have to pay $12 million a month for that, whereas if the president had called up the National Guard, the feds would have picked up the cost. But somebody's got to do something.
What should we do with those kids?
Well, first of all, I want to seal the border. And let's stop it. It's not our problem.
Like a real fence.
If it doesn't get it. Yeah, whatever it takes to close the border. You're not a nation if you don't have borders. I mean, nobody I know allows unlimited immigration. People just wander across the border between countries. Even Canada and us are pretty friendly, but you still have to stop and talk to somebody before you enter into Canada.
Oh, well, now it's full-blown.
And in today's world where there are terrorists everywhere, and there's supposedly gang members coming in, we have a right to check the border. I mean, I think you stop it, and then you interview. If people want in and they claim they're refugees and they're going to be terrorized in their homeland, there should be a process in place to consider their request before they get into the country, not after they get into the country.
But at what point do you use compassion to guide your decision-making, especially when you're
What I'm talking about is compassionate. You stop it, why are they crossing Mexico's borders? Why isn't it Mexico's problem to solve it? Why isn't it their own country's problem to solve the issue? I just think we're not holding their feet to the fire. I said before, I think the way to solve this problem is to tell Mexico, every one of these kids that comes from south of you, that winds up on our doorstep on your border, we're going to deduct the cost of maintaining them and caring for them from the amount of foreign aid we send you. Imagine how fast Mexico would close the border.
Probably not. I don't think this is a solvable issue. I think what you have is people that are in oppressive and sometimes violent situations, although that seems to be called into question in this discussion as to how much violence. But I think there's just certainly abject poverty, and you have children in need.
Well, no doubt
and you
there's
have
poverty.
Parents, well, I think you think of poverty as somebody who's below the poverty line in the U.S. I'm talking about folks who have no food and where people do starve.
And how did they get from the border all the way across Mexico without eating?
In what way does your faith influence this decision?
It doesn't influence it. I'm talking about the borders of the United States. I have compassion for the people, and I will. If my church takes up a collection to help them, I will donate to it. But I don't think it's all our problem. You guys on the left don't want us to be the world's policeman, but you don't have any problem with us being the world's social service deliverer.
Yeah, I'm not a border person. I'm a people person. And David, thank you so much for checking in. You're on the mark.
Couple thoughts. It's easy just to put some money in the collection plate. I guess my thoughts would be the churches that are willing to bring some of these folks in, some of the parishioners that are willing to directly work with them, that would seem to be a little more impressive in the way of Christian work than just the collection plate. But the reason I was calling, one thing I'm very disappointed with Obama about is that the Iraqis that assisted us for a number of years while we were very busily engaged in Iraq as translators and so forth, their lives have been threatened. Many of them already been killed, and the State Department and/or Washington has basically avoided bringing any of those folks to the States. They were promised if they helped us, we would consider bringing them to the States as political refugees. And we basically closed that door with paperwork and red ink and so forth, which is a tragedy, I think, to the folks that really helped us and probably saved a lot of American lives during the Iraqi war. and they no longer can live in Iraq and so forth, because they themselves and some of their family members will certainly be killed if they're discovered in hiding, and on and on. The other thing that kind of makes me wonder, and I know at the end of the Depression we were still lots and lots of unemployed, and when the Jews wanted to flee Europe, a lot of places wouldn't let them in, and we kept a lot of them out too. So historically, when you look back on some of this and get the emotion from the immediate time frame like today with the border, and look back, there's been times when we could have done a better job of being really Americans in our values and compassionate. Two examples I just said, the Jews that wanted to get out of Europe, late 30s, and now the folks coming up from Central America, the Iraqis that helped us. It's very unfortunate. It's very tragic, and we're not living up to our name. I think it's almost like we need to throw a blanket over the Statue of Liberty till we can be a little more representative of the image we want to create.
Yeah, well said. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, David. Thank you for calling in.
It's a wonderful philosophy, but the question is, who pays?
Who pays for the blanket?
Who pays for everything? The taxpayer of this country has to pay for everything that's done. We are borrowing money from China. What are our priorities?
Well,
I've said this before. If our priorities is to care for everybody, then we need to do other things. We need to throw our military away. We need to beat our swords into plowshares, and we need to, grow all food on every street corner so we can feed the world, if that's our goal. But, the American taxpayer, I'm worried about American kids who are going hungry, American kids who don't have enough to eat, and then we're going to bring in hundreds of thousands of others and try to feed them, and educate them and clothe them and keep them here and provide social services for them. Don't you think, no matter how humanitarian you are, aren't you better off with those kids being in their homes and working to help their parents have a better life where they are than bringing them here to a country they don't know, to a language they don't speak, to putting them in social services that are cold and often impersonal? I think it's more humanitarian to help them where they come from, to help them in their country. And if these, when I said that to Than, he said, well, they're a sovereign country. You can't force them to do anything. Well, we're a sovereign country too.
Well, I think the viewpoints that you're talking about are right. I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but I just think that there's a human drama that is sort of kind of hovers over the political boundaries. What if you saw a sick person in the street in front of your house and they needed help? You'd call 911. You'd go out and give them a glass of water immediately, and you'd
put a Band-Aid on them.
Try to comfort them immediately.
But what if there were 100 of them like that out there?
Well, I think
1,000.
I think you do what and there is. That's exactly.
But
that's where I'm headed here.
How am I supposed to help 1,000 people out there?
I think
at some point, am I supposed to sell everything I own, all of my possessions?
Compassionate and Catholic manner.
Okay.
Catholic charity is a big part of it.
We had this argument with Than last week. When one kid shows up on your door and says, "Mark, will you feed me?" You're certainly going to feed him. 5 kids show up, you maybe feed them. But when you got 100 kids there and you have to start selling your possessions and cashing in your retirement account to feed them, you're going to say, this isn't my responsibility. So and you're going to be correct.
Your compassion stops at your retirement account.
No, I think my compassion stops at my ability to pay.
Right, which is
and that's no less true of countries than it is of people individually.
Yeah, I think this is a big issue, and I certainly don't have the answer. And here's the hope that we're having the conversation, and that people who do care deeply and compassionately and want to put, as Dave said, wanted to put America's name back on what has been a global acceptance of help for people in need. I think we have a chance here to start to affect that. The president is getting a lot of criticism because of the acceptance of individuals in the U.S., and of course that seems, as Pat Toomey said, that seems to be in compliance with some laws.
He's too busy raising money to actually go to the border and see the problem.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's what the issue. Okay, yeah, that's right.
That is an issue. I'm sorry. The President of the United States would fly over a hurricane, but he won't go down to the border and see what's going on down there.
He flew to a hurricane?
When we had Sandy he flies. The presidents always fly to look at the damage.
Okay.
But he's not going anywhere near the border.
I think he's already been there, hasn't he?
No, he hasn't.
All right. Anyway, thank you so much for coming in, Joe.
I'll see you Thursday.
You could not possibly be more wrong on these topics.
Thank you.
And Kevin Herr is partially wrong
You
on
self-righteous ideologue.
most of these topics. And I am, in fact, self-righteously, ideologically, Mark Lawrence, and glad that you joined us on the Mark. This is News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. It's 10 in the morning.